It's our last full day in Tokyo, and the night before we had to change hotels because, well, we needed to be able to wash and dry our clothes, and the washers and dryers broke at the last one. So we moved into an even smaller hotel room than the one before. But while the rooms kept getting progressively smaller, I gotta say, the toilets kept getting progressively better. This one was by far the most complicated, but also the most enjoyable. And when I got home, I immediately started pricing Japanese toilets on Amazon. After breakfast, it was off to the National Sumo Championship. It's Sunday, our final day in Japan. We'll fly out home tomorrow, but we are headed to the Sumo Championships. So here we just got off the train station. All of these gift shops, and there's the sumo station, sumo stadium rather. I guess sumo dudes like Hawaiian shirts. And as always, in Japan in September, I'm sweating like a beast. It's got to be like 90s with 700% humidity, at least. But it's beautiful. Oh, there you go. For good luck. Rub his booty. The Grand Sumo Tournament takes place 6 times a year in different locations throughout Japan. And we were there in time for the September tournament, the first week of it. It's a 2-weekend event. Now, I had some plans later that day, but the tickets that we bought were good for all day. So I spent time just kind of soaking up the atmosphere of the sumo arena, and it was so different from any other sport that I've seen. The athletes, the individual athletes, are just rock stars. I mean, they are celebrities in Japan. And I knew I wouldn't be able to stay all day and watch the main events later that evening, like when things got really wild. But I wanted to take in some matches and enjoy the undercard and just kind of experience this martial arts / sport that I had zero exposure to whatsoever, other than, like most Americans, just in movies or using E-Honda in Street Fighter 2. So all throughout the arena, there were displays of the different wrestlers, including Akebono, one of the few champions I did know, famous for his fight with Hoist Gracie, among other things. And it was just neat, taking it all in. It was not like going to an American sporting event where there were huge crowds and lines, but that's because I kind of got there early. And again, these were sort of the undercard matches, so to speak, at the beginning of the tournament. So these guys are rock stars. Sumo wrestlers in Japan. I don't know what kind of athletes we compare them to in America, but yeah, definitely celebrity status. You, anata no favorite cat? 名前。裏デッキ。Hey. First time. So all very new. 大きいです。どうも。So I'm here at the Sumo Championships trying to find our seats. There's an overhead map of the arena, and I'll have to decipher from the tickets, which are mostly in kanji, what my seats are. But I'm also, while we're here watching sumo, thanks to the wonders of technology, I am able to watch the Georgia-Kentucky game. So American sports passion meets Japanese sports passion. See, while it was Sunday morning here in Japan, it was Saturday evening back in the States, and my Bulldogs were playing Kentucky. It turned out to not be a very pretty game, but we still got the win, which I was able to see thanks to the miracles of modern technology while watching the Grand Sumo Tournament in Tokyo. How cool is that? And during halftime, well, it's not really halftime, but during the break, I'll be coming to get some sushi. and going around just taking in the sights, like this guy. In America, a lot of people think the sumo wrestlers are just big fat guys. They are big, and they do have a lot of body fat, but they're pretty athletic. Like, and by pretty athletic, I mean ridiculously athletic. So they're not only strong, but they have to have this crazy balance. And like most sumo wrestlers that I've seen, I mean, they can do full splits and jump, and because they're just so powerful. They work their legs so much and everything. It's like judo in a diaper almost. Having to have all of the flexibility and the dynamicism. So these guys, yeah, it's not like some, you know, just fat redneck in America. Oh, I could do that. It takes a lot of specialized training. So think like a defensive or offensive line in football, or defensive linemen, like the big guys up front. That's the athleticism that the sumo athletes have to have. Very specialized training. Like I said, I was only there for the earlier matches of the day, so we missed, or at least I missed, when it got really exciting. But sumo culture is wild. It's just really cool for me to see people as passionate about this sport that we pretty much know nothing about here in America, as Americans are about football or the NBA Finals or the Final Four. So it was very cool experiencing the culture, and I also had one of the best corn dogs that I've had in a long time, along with some skewers of beef and chicken. So it was a great time. My only regret is that I didn't get to stay longer, but I had to leave because I had a few more things to see before meeting up with Kimiko again later that afternoon. Now, I was supposed to meet Kimiko over at a place in Asaka, and it wasn't far of a walk. It was really like 15 or 20 minutes. So I headed out, and it happened to be a holiday weekend. There were crowds everywhere. There were all of these numerous parades, basically. The people would be marching and chanting with drums, and I stopped in and checked out a couple of shrines, looking at the artwork and the architecture. And you may be surprised to see what looks like a swastika everywhere in Japan, but that's actually a Sanskrit symbol. You'll see it a lot in India and all over as well. And of course, Hitler was the one who co-opted that. But the walk over to Asaka was really nice. It was hot, yes, but there was a breeze on the river, and again, Japan is just so clean. Now, one place that I didn't plan on stopping, but as soon as I saw it, I realized I had to, was the Japanese Sword Museum. I was literally walking down the road and looking at my Google Maps, and it just said Japanese Sword Museum. Now, we had tried to go to the Samurai Museum earlier in the trip, but it was closed, unfortunately. So I thought, man, let me go check out the Sword Museum. And right out front, there was this huge piece of ore that the Japanese sword makers would take and create, mixing with charcoal and different metals, and then they bust it up and they take the pieces, and through a very meticulous process, they would use those to create what are considered arguably the greatest sword invention in history, which is the Japanese katana. If not the greatest, certainly the most artistically beautiful. The craftsmanship on display in this museum was off the charts. There were numerous exhibits that had the blades. Then there would be a section that was all about the handle. Then there was a section that was all about the scabbard. And there were awards. These were award-winning swordsman creations. It was really cool to see such a high level of craftsmanship and the pride that the Japanese take in this, literally this ancient art form. So we're at the Japanese Sword Museum, and I just got finished looking at a lot of the Japanese swords, the katana and the naginatas and the tantos upstairs, and all of the different divisions, the actual sword making division, the polishing division, the scabbard division, and just incredible amount of craftsmanship that goes into the sword, which is essentially just an implement of killing people. So it's this real dichotomy with something that's brutal. I mean, that's its purpose, is to kill. Now, whether it's killing in defense and for a noble purpose, or killing for the sake of glory, or ambition, an ignoble purpose, is up to how it's used. But anyway, it's just fascinating to see the relationship, the way that the sword is viewed is in ancient samurai culture, but some of that echoes into modern Japanese culture as well. And so at the Sword Museum, which we're right outside, you can see there's the coffee shop area I was just sitting in. Right outside there's this beautiful garden, nice and breezy and shady, that surrounds the building. So it's like a park. I'm trying to stay close because my phone's charging right there. Although this is Japan, I feel like nobody's going to steal anything. But yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy. You know, you have a museum dedicated to the sword, warrior spirit, surrounded by a garden and beauty and nature and harmony and artistry. So it's cool. It's very much, I mean, you can see why the concept of, you know, the whole yin-yang concept in a lot of Eastern thought, you really see that expressed in places like this, I think, in particular. But it's so hot, but right now it's super breezy, and this shaded garden with the water here, I mean, this is just absolutely gorgeous. There's a couple over there getting what looks like wedding pictures or maybe engagement pictures. After the Sword Museum, I had just enough time to get over to Asaka and wade through the crowds to meet up with my friend Kimiko. When I got there, I asked what all the parades were, and she told me that it was a holiday known as Respect for the Aged Day. Technically the third Monday in September, but that weekend and the following were 3-day holidays, and together they're known as Silver Week, when many of the temples and shrines have their autumn or harvest festivals. A big part of the celebrations is the transportation of the mikoshi. Now, mikoshi is a portable mini shrine that's believed to house one of Japan's 8 million gods. Yes, 8 million. That's why there seems to be a god for everything in Japan. And at festivals, it's carried around to bless the businesses and the residents and to ward off misfortune. The mikoshi is basically a miniature version of the shrine. And so those carrying it are required to dress in specific clothing, which varies from clan to clan, and they're basically carrying around the god. And so you transport the god around in his miniature mobile home with all of the people, and that is seen as bringing blessing and prosperity. And of course, being a Bible nerd, I couldn't help think about the Ark of the Covenant parallels and how one might use the concept of the mikoshi to communicate some concepts that are found in the Torah across a vast cultural divide. Very interesting food for thought from a biblical, theological, missional perspective. But anyway, I got to the place where I had told Kimiko to meet me, and it was one that I'd specifically chosen. It is the Mokuhankan print shop. I wanted to visit it not only because they sold these awesome series of Japanese traditional woodblock prints, but based on modern comic and video game characters, but also so that I could meet the owner and the head carver, David Bull. I've been watching his videos here on YouTube for years, and aside from being just absolutely fascinating and artistically educational, he also has one of the most relaxing voices ever, which you know if you've ever watched any of his videos. So I saw him as soon as I walked through the front door. He was sitting there at his carving desk working on, probably a Twitch stream or a YouTube video or something. And I walked in and I said, "Hey, I love your videos. In fact, I've fallen asleep to you many times," which was funny. His videos are just incredibly soothing, and usually I put something on at night to help me sleep, documentaries or something that's just relaxing. And so if you ever need something relaxing to watch, check out David Bull's channel. And I told him that, and we laughed about it. And he was really nice. We sat, we talked for a minute, and he asked me about my hat that I was wearing. What is Disciple Dojo? I told him a bit about the channel and I gave him my card. Now, he is openly not religious. He has a video on his channel where he talks about the meaning of life and very much not what we would call a believer in any sense of the word. And I could tell that he honestly found it bizarre that anyone could actually believe the Bible to be trustworthy or true. But he was very polite in expressing his disagreement. And, I told him if we had time to sit around and discuss it over tea or sake, that would be great, and we'd probably have a really good discussion. But unfortunately, I didn't have time, and of course it was in the middle of a workday at his shop. So I ended up buying this gorgeous print that he carved from the Ukiyo-e Heroes series. It was a depiction of the Ninja Turtles done in the style of feudal Japanese art. And it was definitely my splurge purchase for the trip, but it was too cool to not get, especially since I had seen the video series on it on YouTube. So if you want some incredible hand-carved, hand-printed ukiyo-e artwork, definitely go check out David's shop online, as well as his YouTube channel. And if you ever make it over to the shop in Asaka, tell him the Disciple Dojo guy sent you. He does amazing work. But after leaving the shop, Kimiko and I headed over to catch the evening service at Tokyo Baptist Church. Along the way, we passed an antique shop with this stunning samurai armor on display that, of course, I had to get a picture of. We finally made it to Tokyo Baptist Church, but the service had already started. So we snuck up to the balcony, and I was able to change in the restroom because knowing I'd be walking around all day in the Tokyo September heat, I had wisely brought a change of clothes. After the worship service, Kimiko introduced me to the pastoral staff. I was able to share with them a little about Disciple Dojo and talk with them about their ministry at Tokyo Baptist Church. Then we headed over to the grocery store around the corner to pick up some food and bring it back downstairs to the social hall because after the service, church members gathered together for dinner. It was wonderful. I got to meet a number of members as well as international visitors to the church. TBC has a large international community in their fellowship groups for various languages and nationalities that go to the church. They even have a class for biblical Hebrew, which I just thought was wonderful. Over the years, I've become convinced that churches, especially here in America, simply don't eat together nearly as much as God intended for His people. Fellowship around a table is the heart of Christian community, I would argue. And it was wonderful to experience it in the heart of the world's biggest city in a country with one of the world's smallest Christian populations. Just everything about it felt very much like a New Testament experience. And I hope that I'm able to come back and visit TBC again in the future. But now it was time to head home on this rainy Tokyo night, back to my hotel for the final night in my tiny room, because tomorrow the trip comes to an end and we head home. So Monday morning, we grabbed a quick breakfast, checked out of our hotel, and headed to Haneda Airport. So this is Haneda International Airport, or Tokyo International Airport, Haneda, and it is gorgeous. And the best thing about this airport is you can, before security, there's all of these shops, places to sit, places to eat. It's not jacked up prices like American airports. And there's this observation area. You can come out here, literally sit outside and watch the planes take off and land. It's nice and breezy. There's vending machines right over there. There's a little playground where kids can play. So you could come to the airport in Japan and make a trip of it, just coming to the airport, even if you're not flying anywhere. There's a planetarium cafe right in there. There's all kinds of stuff. I bought a number of my souvenirs. They had a whole Studio Ghibli section, so I got a lot of cool stuff from there. I was so tempted to get those Don Quixote slippers. I still might go back and get them. I don't think they have my size though. But yeah, I just got little Studio Ghibli blind box stuff, and I got what else did I get? A little Hachiko keychain and the Asaka's little companion, Porco Rosso, Totoro, and then a little Shiba Inu samurai magnet for the refrigerator. So just random stuff, because we're in Japan and that's what you do in Japan. You get random stuff to take home. But this trip's been great. Now we just have to wait to board. Our flight doesn't board until 5:30. It's like 3 right now. I don't know, maybe 3:15. So we've got a little while. But anyway, just wanted to give you guys a taste of the Haneda airport, because it's awesome. Like, all American airports should model themselves off of Haneda, especially you, Charlotte. Terrible airport. Yeah, this is just head and shoulders above anything that we have there in terms of airports. So fly through, if you're coming to Tokyo, fly through Haneda. And with that, I boarded my plane shortly after and headed back home. It was an amazing trip. Everything from the training at Eminari's to putting on a white belt and becoming a beginner student at the Kodokan, to experiencing Japanese culture, seeing some of the biggest influences in my own artistic journey up close and in person, and being able to spend time talking with, eating with, hanging out with Japanese Christians. You know, Japan's not a country that has a lot of Christian presence there, so it was awesome to just be able to hang out with fellow disciples. I just can't say enough great things about Japan. If you get a chance, absolutely go visit. It is a beautiful, stunning, sublime country that has so much to offer, and where there's much work to be done for the kingdom of God and shining the light of Christ in that land. So I was just so thankful to be able to experience it. This was my first trip to Japan, but I guarantee it will not be my last. And hopefully, Disciple Dojo can organize a trip and take some folks over there as well one day. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching this series. We are not a travel channel. This is not what we normally do here at Disciple Dojo, but I couldn't go that far all the way around the world and not at least bring back some of the experience to share with viewers here on the channel. So I appreciate you watching, and that's all for now. We'll see you next time back here at Disciple Dojo. As always, keep training.